The hills had a habit of staying apart from everything else. They stood tall and silent, covered with dark forests and chilled winds, as if they wanted nothing to do with people or their problems. Veer had chosen this place for that exact reason. For almost 5 years, he had been living alone inside a rough wooden cabin, hidden deep near the upper forest line, far above any known path. No lights from villages reached him. No voices called his name. No sound of life, only the wind moving through trees and the quiet struggle of surviving each day. Veer was only 30, but his face carried more years than that. The marks around his eyes were not from time, but from pain. He was born into a tribal family, but life had taken him elsewhere, raised among outsiders, shaped by their rules, and eventually thrown away when he was no longer useful. Once he had worked as a tracker. He followed men for money, settled scores, and did things that paid well, even if they weren't right. He worked with a small team, men who trusted each other deeply. Among them was Karan, the closest one to him, the man who shared everything: fire, drink, and secrets. Veer trusted him completely. That trust cost him everything. The night his wife died, Veer was not there. He had been sent away for a simple task. Karan had said it was nothing serious, just a short delay. But while Veer was gone, the office where his wife handled accounts was attacked. Gunshots were fired, men rushed in and out. By the time Veer returned, everything was over. Blood had already dried into the wooden floor. At first, it looked like bad luck. But later he discovered the truth. The attack was planned. The timing was arranged so he wouldn't be there. His wife's death was not an accident. It was part of a bigger plan. Karan needed Veer out of the way, needed to rise higher, needed control. Veer never went back to confront him. He didn't fight. He didn't go to the authorities. He simply walked away from everything, from the work, from the town, from every person who once called him a brother. He came to the hills and stayed. Years passed in silence. Then one morning, everything changed. Veer stepped out early to hunt. A thin layer of snow covered the ground, enough to hold marks. He moved slowly, watching every detail. Then he noticed something strange. Footprints, not of an animal. Human. Small. Uneven. They moved toward an old broken enclosure that hadn't been used in years. Veer crouched and examined them. The steps were short, dragging slightly. Whoever made them was injured. There were dark stains in the snow. Blood. He followed the trail carefully. The enclosure stood weak and broken, its wood old and cracked. Inside, the smell of rot and dry grass filled the air. Veer stepped in quietly. That's when he saw her. She was sitting against the far wall, partly hidden behind straw. A young woman, barely conscious. Her breathing was weak, her face pale, her clothes torn and stained. Veer moved closer and spoke softly. "Don't be afraid. I won't harm you." She looked at him, her eyes filled with fear, but also strength. He noticed blood on her clothes and instinctively tried to check for injury. As he reached, she suddenly held his hand. "Please, stop," she whispered, embarrassed. He froze. "It's not an injury," she said slowly. "It's natural." Veer understood immediately and pulled his hand back, turning away awkwardly. "I'm sorry, I didn't know." Silence filled the space for a moment. Then she spoke again. "My leg is hurt. I can't walk." Veer checked from a distance. Her ankle was swollen badly. "Can you stand?" he asked. She tried but couldn't. Then she looked at him and said quietly, "If I stay here, I won't survive." Veer closed his eyes. For years he had followed one rule: stay alone, don't help, don't get involved. But this time, he couldn't ignore it. He turned back to her and said, "If you stay here, you won't last. If you come with me, you might live." That was the only promise he could give. He lifted her carefully and carried her through the forest. Behind them, the snow slowly covered their tracks. Veer brought her to his cabin and placed her near the fire. He gave her water, blankets and warmth, but he felt unsure. He knew survival, not care. She told him quietly, "I can't manage alone." Veer nodded and went to call for help. Not far away lived an old woman named Kamla. She listened quietly and came with him. After helping the girl, she stepped outside and said, "She'll be fine. You did the right thing." Days passed. Her name was Asha. Her legs slowly healed. They started living together in silence first, then slowly with comfort. One day she tried cooking and burned the pot. Veer rushed in thinking the cabin was on fire and threw water everywhere. She laughed loudly. He laughed too. Something inside him changed. They started planting crops behind the cabin. Small plants began to grow. Life returned slowly. But one day, a letter appeared. No name, just a location. A broken house far away. Asha whispered, "They found me." Veer looked at the fire and said quietly, "Then we face it." They reached the place at sunrise. A voice came from inside. Finally, Veer recognized it. Karan, standing there smiling. "You brought her back," he said. Asha stepped forward. "I'm not yours." Karan laughed, then looked at Veer. "You never changed." Veer looked at him calmly. "No, I did." This time, Veer didn't run. Like, comment, share, subscribe.